Hello everyone and welcome back to the warm Caribbean seas and my Stream Deck profile customization series. In today's episode we will be focusing on button visual customization and how to display variables and values in different ways. So let's jump into the plane and get going. And here we are in A320 cockpit. So let's check what kind of customization you can do with your buttons and how to visualize data and variable. I will be covering display value button, simple button, dynamic button and Korry button in this video. And let's start from simple button first. So here in the lower part now you can see different kind of sections, and if we start from title, this is the place where you can insert any text if you want to have something visible in your buttons. For example, these simple buttons, because they are not showing any values, it's important to have something to indicating what the button is actually doing. And this is simply button for us. And from the T you can open the customization, so you can align the text in the top or middle or bottom, so only 3 selections, and of course there's an option to show the title if you want. Also it is possible to select different fonts. These are limited for the PilotsDeck plugin and you are not able to use any other fonts here, but there are some options here, for example Arial, and then you can set the size and also if you want to have it bolded and so on. Also there's possibility to select different colors for the text. Also in the title itself you can use this trick if you want to move the position, so you can just press enter and make a line break and you can adjust the place a little bit, and also with space you can move it either right or left depending where you put the empty space. But this is a little bit limited, but there's some options where you can place the text, and also you can have the text title with multiple lines as well. Then next there's a background, which is the basically what it says, it's a background of the button. And here is the selection of different kind of images, icons, which are coming with the plugin itself. You can have your custom icons as well, but then you have to store them in the same directory where the plugin itself is. And there's few different image directories under this. So there is this indicators and Korry. This panel is my custom made, so you don't have that. But from this root directory you can find all the different buttons which are available. For example, switch screen off and switch screen on, which I'm using in some of my profiles. Then the guard tab, this tells if I show it from the game. So there is, for example, this ID G1 and it has this red card. So if you want to mimic this type of behavior, you need to do it with the, let's try to get the view the same what we had a little bit right. So here you tell the button that you want to use the card, and the card address is the first place you need to tell what variable you want to use here. And today we are working with autopilot speed set, so we can use that even it's not meant to be used, but it is this a variable autopilot airspeed hold var knots, and let's say that when it's 100 the card will be closed. And then in the card command section you can select how you want to control the card from the button, but let's set the image here. So we don't want to map it, we are using direct value, and let's select card cross red because it's more visible. And since we put the value 100, and we can see that now there is 105. So if we put this in 100, then the red cross card will be shown. But of course you wouldn't use it in this kind of speed indicator, but there would be specific variable in the game. But just to show how you can mimic this kind of card behavior. But that was mostly for the normal button, but let's switch to the display value because there are more options there how you can customize the visual looks of the button. There's this card, background, but now we want to actually see something from the game. And if we use the same variable here, so we want to see value from the autopilot speed setting. So we have now the value 101, and if we change this, it will be shown in the blocking and the profile. But then we can also tell a lot of things how we want to show the value. If we start from the scaler, so there might be some variables which are holding the value differently what you actually want to see. So this is not a good example for that, but if you would like to see your speed, for example, 10 times higher, then you just would put 10 here. Or if you want to divide it by 10, you put 0.1 and then you will see the value divided. But this is handy if you are having variable in different scale what you want to see in the profile. Format is also really useful sometimes. For example, here we have this heading, and even it has value 5, it is showing 2 zeros front of it. So we could have the same here. So we can tell that we want to have always this number in the 3 digits. Then you would put 3 here. But now we are not telling how many decimals we want to have, and then you have to put that here as well. So we want to have 3 numbers but 0 decimals. Or if you want to have 1 decimal, you put 3.1. And if you want to have these front zeros, you could use that with the speed, for example, that we want to see it with 5 digits and 0 decimals. And now you would have these leading zeros shown, similarly as the heading has. And then the last one here is the mappings. And for example, here is the rows selection. It has 5 different selections like arc, navigation, VOR, and so on. And for example, this is in the variable with the numeric format. So there is 0, 1, 3, 2, 4. But of course, you wouldn't like to see that. You would like to see the text, for example. Here you can tell to the button that I want to see when this speed value is 100, I want to see actually text value. And now if I go here and change the value for 100, it will be mapped to the text value what you can insert here. And if you would like to have multiple, you can put different values here, just map them how you liked. Value 2, and let's put third one, and this is text. So now when we change the setting in the game, there will be value 2 shown when the value is 101, and when the value is 102, there will be text shown. But yeah, this is the way you can map different kind of values completely new as you wish. Font is also really useful for these values. There is this font setting inherit font, which means that if you want to use the same font which you have put in the title, but if you unclick this, you have more selection what you can use here. And here actually you have all the fonts available which you have installed with your Windows. And there is, for example, this Digital 7. It's a font which is free, and I have also used that with some of my profiles because it's, like I said, it's free and it looks pretty nice. So if you want to, for example, mimic this kind of digital numbers, I suggest to use this one. And then if I change the size a little bit bigger, and color, if we want to mimic the autopilot, this would be pretty close. And here is also if you want to have bold or just regular text shown. Now we have this speed indicator shown in the button as in the game. Then there's still one more tab which I want to cover. It's this special state, and you can use this different ways, but I would say that it's mostly if you want to mimic, for example, some button fault states, if there's something happening. And first you need to enable it, and here you need to tell that what value is the special state you want to somehow have a function, have the button functioning differently. Let's put that this is 110. So now when we have the speed set 110, this special state will trigger. And first you can say that if you want to hide the value, and now if I scroll to the 110, the value will be hidden completely. You can also use different color if you have some use case that you want to show some specific value with a different color. But you can also tell, let's hide the value now. And then there's option to also use different image. So for example, if we would think that this 110 is error situation scenario, then you could select this kind of XXX error image. So now every time when you are setting the speed 110, instead of the number, there's this error background shown. You can also use this kind of fault indicator if it's not error but fault. You can use it different ways, whatever suits your scenario and your setup. Okay, let's switch to the overhead panel and let's start working with dynamic buttons next. And this is normal button in the sense that you can use it to toggle actions and functions from the plane, but what kind of different images you can show is a little bit different, and you are not able to show any value directly on the button itself. So basically it has this on and off states, and here you are mapping or configuring which kind of image is shown for the button based on the variable which you are tracking. And if we set the variable first here, and let me use, for example, external power button, so we are working with this one. So I'm telling the address, so this is taken from the SDK documentation, and the variable is called external power on. It's a variable and it's a Boolean type. And this is the variable this button will listen, and then we will tell from this on and off states that on value is 1. When the variable has value 1, then it's on, and off value is 0. And now we have been mapping this button already. So if I switch off the external power, we will see that the button will show off status, and if I'm setting the external power on, it will be on in the button as well. This is not exactly how the actual button is working, but just to show the example. And if you would like to use this button, specific button, but remove the off button, off value, you could just set it, for example, 2 or Actually, I think it should work if it's empty as well. Yes, so just keep it empty and the off value is not shown at all. And here is the same thing that you can select different buttons. These are not shown here, so you need to kind of know how the image look when you are selecting something. But you have quite a good selection of different kind of buttons, and also if you first select the image directory, there's different kind of indicators, different kind of arrows, or these kind of Korry text, which are just text values or icons. But let's select the button what we had, and it was, what was it actually? Korry on. But then, as seen from this external power button, it has actually two different stages. So if the power is available, and also when the setting or the button is set on. And that's why you should maybe use this Korry button. And it's a little bit different, but it has the basic feature that you can put title if you want. And it has a card, it has a command, so it will command something from the button as well. But it has a top and bottom part differently. So actually this button will listen to two different variables. And bottom part, if we want to replicate the external power button from the game and the plane. So let's go first to the bottom part. And let's put this variable address there. So external power on. And shown value is when it's 1. And this has actually the right image selected. So this is now set correctly. But then the top part we would like to use, I have the variable here already looked, so we don't need to check that. So it's this kind of external power available, and it's Boolean type as well. And when that is 1, this top part will be showing, but of course in this variable it is not false, but it's available. So now we need to find A available. But here we have a little issue if we want to replicate this button completely. Because even we have this external power on, it is not hiding the available text, because the power is available when the power is off. But when you are turning it on, the power is still available. So actually this is type of button we are not able to build with this standard Korry button. Let's see with the generator 2 the same function, just to see how it works. So let's create a new Korry button. And now I need to check the variables. And let's put the bottom part first. And there is this type of variable which is telling if the generator is on. And let's put it when it's not 0. No, sorry. So when it is 0, then we need to show. Whoa, that was interesting. Off white. So now if I'm turning it off, it is working. So what I did was I put bottom part, this variable. This is not found from the SDK, by the way. And I will be covering later on episode how to find these different variables and events from where, like what are the sources, and how to try to figure out what kind of variables or events you need to use if you are not able to find those from SDK documentation. But here I put the variable here in the bottom address, and then when this is 0, then we are showing this off Korry image. And then the top part, there is separate variable which is telling if that button has a fault indicator on, and this is the variable. And when this variable has 0, or we could use the show while non-zero, and it has actually this fault text indicator selected by default. So now we should have this button replicated. So if I switch it off, the fault indicator goes off, and if I switch it on again, we will have this fault indicator visible. And this is how you can build, for example, these fault indicators with Korry buttons. But unfortunately, we were not able to build external power, but at least I was able to show how to build some button completely. In future episodes, I will be covering rest of the buttons. As I mentioned, I will have own episode for composite action because it's so complex and you can customize a lot with it. But also I'm covering the rest of the buttons later. Hopefully you enjoyed this content and it was useful for you, and you are also able to utilize this your own custom profiles. See you in the next episodes. Have a smooth flights.